So what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So I'm finally back after being away while most of the big Battlefield 5 news has been coming out. I couldn't cover anything that came out during E3 or of course in the closed alpha, firstly because I had a lot of exams I had to do, and then I decided to take a holiday for 2 weeks while the alpha happened to be out, so any time that I did have a code available I wasn't able to play it at all. But now I'm back and I have a ton of videos planned for this summer. Now for today's video I want to talk about 7 guns that I really hope we'll see in Battlefield 5, either at release as guns at the launch of the game, or in the Tides of War expansions as guns that came in later during the war, or were possibly not well used up until a certain point in the war. Now I wanted to try and use guns that were quite rare. They were definitely used in the war but haven't really featured in video games before, kind of giving them something of an edge over most of the guns we normally see. Now before I get into the actual list of the 7 guns I hope to see, I have a list of guns that I would like to see in the game, but I imagine will be in the game anyway, so there's not much point in putting them on a list like this. Originally they're on the short list, so I kind of wanted just to put them in the video anyway. Most of these are quite iconic guns that have been featured in previous video games. Most of them are standard issue rifles for certain armies, or guns that were just very popular with a certain military, so there's a high chance we'll see them in the game. Firstly, we have the German FG42, then we have the Browning M1919, the Type 100 SMG, the Type 96 LMG, both of those Japanese, the Soviet Union's Mosin Nagant, the French MAS-36 or MAS-36, and then lastly the Russian SKS and SVT-40. All of these guns are, like I said, quite iconic and I imagine will be in the game, although at the moment we haven't seen anything of any of these guns. There is rumours the Type 100 is in the game, which is cool to see. Something like the MAS-36 was the French standard issue rifle in World War II, so there's a huge chance that gun is in the game, and the Browning M1919 will probably be the American version of what the MG34 was in the alpha. Now once again, these guns could either be released at launch or as DLC for the Tides of War. I imagine the Japanese and the Russian guns could be seen in the Tides of War just based on the fact that both those militaries weren't in the war from the very beginning. So now onto the actual list. So the first entry we have kind of a difficult one because I wanted to feature 2 guns, the ZK383 and the Beretta Model 38. The problem I found is that in game I imagine both guns would fill a similar role, making it kind of difficult to choose one over the other. Now the ZK383 or ZK383 as we would say in the UK was a Czech submachine gun developed in 1938 in Czechoslovakia just before the Nazi invasion. Using the incredibly popular 9x19mm parabellum round, the ZK383 was equipped with a bipolar standard and is known for being an extremely smooth shooter with an adjustable rate of fire. The operator could remove a weight inside of the bolt, allowing the rate of fire to increase from around 470 rounds per minute to a moderate 750 rounds per minute. Meaning that essentially if you wanted to go up and use it as a sort of minor support weapon with the bipod, you could leave it at the lower rate of fire, while if you were going inside a building and wanted to be able to react quickly and get bullets down range, you could take out the weight and make it fire faster. Mostly used by the Waffen-SS during World War II, this could be a very solid medium-range option for an SMG wielding class in Battlefield 5. Now in a very similar fashion, the Italian Beretta Modello 38 is a very smooth-firing SMG with a decent rate of fire. Developed also in 1938 by the Italian army, it didn't really see a lot of service till around about the middle point of the war, around about 43, just based on getting the new gun in and getting the old guns out. But when it was used, it was incredibly popular amongst Axis troops as well as Allied troops. Allied troops would often take them, use them in combat due to the fact that they could pick up Italian ammunition and use it while fighting. Of course, it fires the same cartridge as the ZK383 and has the same operating system as well. Now both guns are known for being extremely controllable and in some way medium range options for SMG users. Personally, I think both these guns would be cool to see, although they're so similar in design it could cause one to be worthless while the other takes advantage for some reason, like rate of fire possibly, or damage. So the next gun we have is the Johnson M1941 short recoil semi-automatic rifle. Designed in 1939 at the outbreak of World War II, the Johnson was one of the guns that was competing against the M1 Garand during military testing. Ultimately, it lost out to the M1 Garand despite being very impressive and having a lot of people really liking it. The Garand was just so versatile, being used as a general battle rifle, as a support weapon, and of course as a sniper, that they just decided to take the Garand because you could use it for all sorts of things. The gun was adopted by certain classes of the Marines and was extremely popular. Firing a 30-06 Springfield cartridge out of a 10-round rotary magazine, the Johnson could be topped off with 5-round stripper clips, basically meaning you fire 5 rounds, now you got to reload, just put a stripper clip in easily. You can also reload it with a single round. Having this made it much easier to top off compared to the Garand, which often required you to expend all the ammunition before you could reload. Although not widely used, it was extremely popular and could fill something of a powerhouse role within the medic class. An LMG version was also developed using the same platform but with a side-mounted 20-round magazine. This makes it extremely similar to the German FG42, which is the more famous of the two rifles. There is possibility we could see both the semi-automatic rifle and the LMG version in game, but again, there's huge similarities between the FG42 and the Johnson LMG could mean that we only see the semi-auto rifle. So this next one is kind of an oddball and we might not see it in the game just based on its design and performance. Another Czech gun called the ZB26 LMG, this was widely regarded as one of the best guns developed during the 1920s. Also called the ZB VZ26 or the Vizor 26, the gun was developed by the military in 1926 for Czechoslovakia's army and became the standard issue light machine gun. Designed to compete with things like the American BAR and the Danish Madsen, it took operations from both of them and combined them together, making one rifle. It operated using an open bolt system with a top-fed 20-round magazine along with a steady rate of fire of 500 rounds per minute. Spent cartridges were ejected at the bottom of the gun, which is very similar to the Madsen. Now in World War II, the rifle was first used by the Czech army, but was eventually taken by the Nazis and used by the Wehrmacht soldiers and obviously officers in the SS. So now the only problem with having this gun in the game is the fact that it kind of already is in the game. The British Bren is actually a modified version of the ZB26. So if this gun is kind of already in the game, why is it on this list? Well, the main reason for that is simply because the ZB26 could fill a different role in game. Being much lighter than the Bren and firing a smaller cartridge could make it more useful for running gun gameplay, while the Bren could be balanced to work best with a bipod. So essentially you could run around with the ZB26 firing it from the shoulder quite effectively and using it on the bipod to reason effect as well, while with the Bren it would be more effective from the bipod and not so effective from the shoulder, kind of differing the two weapons. However, the fact that the Bren is already in the game probably means we won't see this rifle, but I kind of hope we do at some point. If we do, I imagine it will be at launch, just based on the fact it was developed well before the war. So now we have the last two guns, and they're both kind of curveballs for different reasons. The first weapon, the British Sterling SMG, was developed in 1944, but technically didn't see any use in World War II outside of prototypes. Designed to replace the Sten gun, the Sterling operated with an open bolt and fired the 9mm Parabellum cartridge. A rate of fire of 550 rounds per minute and a 34-round side-fed magazine make it basically identical to the Sten in terms of rate of fire, round, and magazine size. The largest difference between the Sten and the Sterling, however, is the design. The Sten was designed and built at the start of the war to fill the British demand for a reliable and cheap SMG. It was built out of pressed and cut steel and was really quite awkward to handle and definitely was not a well-made rifle. As soon as the Germans were pushed back, however, and the Sten was in full use, the British Army requested a new SMG, one that wasn't made so cheaply and could eventually replace the Sten. This is where the Sterling then came in, although it wasn't actually properly adopted until 1953. Featuring a proper pistol grip as well as a reworked cooling system and a bunch more improvements made to the gun, the Sterling would eventually replace the Sten in 1953. The Sterling is also well known for appearing in the Star Wars films as the E11 blaster. Now in game I can definitely imagine both the Sten and the Sterling being solid options. The rugged and basic design of the Sten could be translated in poor recoil control. Then, maybe with later expansions from the Tides of War, we could see the Sterling be brought in and act very similar to how it did in the actual war and in the British adoption. Essentially being very identical to the Sten but with more control and a greater effective range, meaning the Sten would be pushed into obscurity in some way, making it the only problem that you don't want a gun to be totally worthless because another one is better than it and does everything the same really. This would require some balancing, but I think the Sterling is a really cool rifle that I don't think I've ever seen in a game before, so I definitely love to see it. Still in service today, the Sterling could definitely be an awesome DLC gun in the future. Now lastly, we have the incredibly famous Russian anti-tank rifle, the PTRS-41. So for this entry I'm kind of cheating a little bit because I'm more interested in just seeing a true anti-tank rifle in the game. But the reason I chose to highlight the PTRS-41 was simply because of its usability. It could be carried by one man, it could be reloaded by one man, and it could be shot by one man, while most anti-tank rifles require a small crew. Weighing 46 pounds or 20.3 kilograms, the PTRS fired a huge 14.5 by 114mm cartridge that could punch through light tank armor. Other anti-tank rifles like the Finnish Lahti gun would also be really cool to see, but something like the Lahti is just so impractical that you have to carry it with a whole crew, or you have to carry it on a sling down below by your hip rather than actually on your shoulder. If it was in the game, I imagine it would be a battle pickup where you have to lie on the ground to use it. I imagine this is also the way that they'd implement the PTRS-41 is being a battle pickup that you have to pick up. You can't shoot it when you're running and you lie down, and much like the Mauser T in Battlefield 1. Then again, it could operate with the sniper class, much like medium machine guns do, where you can shoot it from the hip, but you don't have any iron sights and you don't really have any accuracy. But then when you lie down, you can use it. The only downside of this is being used as a super long range sniper rifle, allowing players to sit at the edge of the map and deal maximum damage. Either way, I just really love to see a World War II era anti-tank rifle in the game. I think all World War II anti-tank rifles are just awesome. So that's my list of weapons I would like to see in Battlefield 5. If you have any suggestions, leave them down below in the comments, and I might include them in a later video. I would just like to give a brief shout out to Forgotten Weapons, who have covered pretty much all of these weapons in fantastic detail on their channel. Without most of those videos, I probably wouldn't have found out about these weapons, and I definitely would not have been able to give so much information. So again, go out and check their channel at ForgottenWeapons.com. So once again, leave your suggestions down below in the comments, and I'll be sure to check them out. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video.